and I was excited to see about all the various activities going on, whether it was National Youth Science Day, the various proclamations, the various service learning opportunities that were going on in the county. So congratulations, everyone. You should be proud of yourselves. And thank you for supporting and recognizing the 4-H program in such a wonderful way. Kicking off today, I want to introduce our new community educator in Colusa County. Christy, are you on board? Are you online right now? She might, let's see if I can see her name anywhere. I don't see her right now, but perhaps we can come back to her later if she joins us at a later date. So at this point then, I'd like to turn it over to Larissa for our conversation around parity reports. You all should have received an email from me with your individual county parity reports. Your emails went, the emails for each county went to your county director, your 4-H Youth Development Advisor, if you have one, and also you as community educators. So we're gonna just talk a little bit about what those mean, and then David White is going to join us, and then I'm gonna share with you some information from a statewide perspective. So Larissa?
Thank you. Sorry, it took me a minute to unmute myself. So before we get into parity, I wanted to go over some of the resources regarding 4-H Online and how we get the data that's used for the parity reports. So I'm sure you've heard this in previous years, but for those of you that are new, just a reminder that parity is when the percent distribution of the program participants by race and gender is proportionate to or within 80% of the retrospective representation of that group in the potential audience population. So this is based upon what is in your county and what your program is serving. So to calculate parity, we look at your 4-H enrollment. So this is the report data sources that is used for the different parity reports that David calculated. So there's a parity report on community club only, on all club only, and total enrollment. So these help sheets are also available on the staff resource section of our California 4-H website. So I'm going to kind of breeze over them because you can dive into exactly which reports are used for these, but the important thing to remember is it's based upon your ES 237 reports. So when we look at how to get to the club only reports, all the clubs in total, these slides go through the steps that outline the process that was used to get the data to calculate parity. So these steps walk through the process of removing our duplicate individual enrollments so that we can continue. Georgia, I think you're not on mute.
That's not me, dear.
Okay. So again, working through these steps to remove the duplicates, getting a pivot table, and this is what we send to David to calculate. So as said, we do this for all of the organized community clubs. This is how we do the all club report. So this would include our community clubs, our in-school clubs, our after-school clubs, and our military clubs. Again, going through the process to remove the duplicates, create the pivot tables to summarize the data. When we get to total enrollment, we're looking at the total enrollment. We're not going to be filtering by the delivery mode. So this report is going to include all delivery modes, and the duplicates are going to be removed by member ID. So again, going through this, creating pivot tables, this is what we get. So some additional enrollment monitoring considerations you might want to think about is looking at your quick reports for your validate youth and adult, your demographics youth and adult, your group enrollment by county, and your ES237 all. In addition, really want to call your attention to the enrollment issues with red flags. This is on your data tab on 4-H Online. So currently, I found 3 profiles in the state that don't have a primary club. And this is, pretty important to think about because they will not be counted on your parity reports unless they have a primary club. So without a primary club, it's not going to be tied to a delivery mode. And so that those individuals won't be captured on your reports. And just a consideration is that, the purpose of monitoring is to ensure all the great work that you're doing in your county is represented on 4-H Online so that it can be captured in reports that report parity. And we can talk about all the great work that's happening within California. So when you're doing your monitoring, if you're seeing something that isn't correct, for example, a group enrollment that has the wrong delivery mode, this is your time to make the corrections when you're doing this monitoring. When the year ends, as many of you know, the system locks. So it locks the individual enrollment data and it can't be changed in any way. Group enrollment data, we really need to treat it the same way, such that June 30 is your deadline to enter and verify that your enrollment data is correct. So this is just the steps in how we get the data that is then used to calculate your parity. Any questions? Okay. I'm going to go ahead and stop my screen so that, David, are you on the call?
David might be late joining us, so to keep the ball rolling, I just want to share with you then what California looked like as a state for 1819. And if everybody could if everyone could either mute their phones or mute their computers, that would be really helpful. We're getting a lot of feedback. So here's what our parity enrollment summary looks like for last year's enrollments. You'll see our groups, the percentage of youth, and the adults. Areas that are red were areas where we dropped in percentage. However, I do want to point out that even though we dropped in percentages, we are still within parity. And that really has to do with all of the work that you all are doing out in the counties. Your efforts through expansion and review, your efforts through providing alternate or a variety of different program deliveries, and your efforts in documenting all of the efforts that you do in the 4-H program have really helped to collect this data set. So I can't thank you all enough regarding all the efforts that you're making. It's making a huge difference in not only our parity, but also in the young people that we serve. I do want to point out that our residence information looks a little bit odd, and I want to explain that a little bit. We don't collect resident information for group enrollment for adults, so that's why there's no data there at all. And then, as you know, it's up to each individual family to determine how they mark all of these boxes. And for whatever reason, this year we had a particularly large number of people that didn't mark any boxes for their residency. So that's why it looks like we have no one living in any of these places, or that we've had a big drop in where these people are living. So that's just really an error because of how people mark their boxes, or in this case that they haven't marked any boxes. Obviously, we know people are not leaving the program because otherwise everywhere would be red. But so that's just a little snafu this year.
Lynn?
Yeah.
I'm just curious. These do not all add up to, they add up to over 100%.
That's right.
Do they check more than one box?
Well, there are some duplicates, if you will. So we might have a young person who who enrolls in maybe a spin club and then also an after school program or something along those lines.
And they would mark something different each time, or, I mean, I guess I'm just kind of confused how you can have more than 100%, but.
Because they're counted more than twice.
Okay.
Yes, I also wanted to ask about, I didn't understand the parity summary of the youth because it's over 100%, and I don't understand how we can use this efficiently.
So we draw this data from the enrollment system. So let's say we've got a young person who is in one of your 4-H clubs, so they get counted there. But then maybe they also participate in an after-school program, so they're going to get counted twice. So that's what would throw the data off.
So is the Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander incorrect on the youth? Because it's 93%, same as white.
These are the correct numbers. This is within our percent of parity, right? It's not that we have 93% of our young people are Native Hawaiian or Pacific Islander. It's that we're 93% within parity.
Also, Lynn, I know in 4-H Online, sometimes just for our traditionally enrolled folks, we get people that end up making multiple 4-H Online profiles.
Right.
And so we end up with multiple ones that probably yields higher data.
That's right. That's right. So Dorina, we're getting some very odd noises coming from you. Minnie Mouse. Sorry. I am checking the chat box, however, so if you want to add something in chat. So I just saw Larissa go over and talk with David. So David, are you online now?
Yes, I am.
Great, thanks, David. So we'll move on to David, and maybe he'll be able to answer some of the questions that you have as well about how we calculate parity and what parity means. So I will stop sharing, David, and feel free to go ahead and pick it up.
Should we be able to hear David?
I don't know, David, we're not able to hear you if you're talking.
David has his phone muted.
Let me go down to his office. Hold on a second.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
We got you now, David.
Oh, okay, well, I thought I was sharing my screen, and yet somehow that didn't Okay, let me try that again.
No, we see your screen. We just couldn't hear
Oh, you
your
do
voice.
see the screen. Oh, okay, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm unmuted. Thank you. Okay, so this is just an example of this year's numbers. I'm sorry, anyway, this is as you see is Butte County. So the numbers in this section here in the darkish kind of orangey color lets you know if you're in parity or out of parity for these particular racial groups, you know, Hispanic, American Indian, Asian, and Black. And the number here in the very last column, that number tells you based on the current total enrollment shown here, you know, for 511 people in this case for the community club only. For that particular county to be in parity for Hispanics, that they would have had to have 88 Hispanics enrolled, and of course you see they only had 68 enrolled, so they're not in parity for Hispanics yet. But that's what those numbers in the last column kind of show you. They kind of give you a little target, you might say, or a little just something to sort of shoot for in the future. However, you have to understand that number is only based on the current enrollment right now. So, you know, the next year, if you enroll more people, that number would of course change. Is there any? Of course, then we go into there's a three types of enrollment. You know, there's the community club, all club, and then there's the all group and individually enrolled for youth. And then we go into volunteers, and it's the same thing. The same three categories: the all club, community club only. I'm sorry. Then all club, and then all total group, and all the individually enrolled for the adult. Excuse me, adult volunteers. Then in the next section, we go into the individual racial categories as far with a 3-year study, a 3-year look at compliance, or how close you guys come to compliance. And you see here the year 16, 17, 17, 18, and then the last year, the 18, 19, or current year, 18, 19, with the change from the previous year, change in the percentage from the previous year, and if were they in parity for this past year, 18, 19. So that, and then you see that for American Indian youth, Asian youth, Black youth, and Hispanic youth. Then we repeat that for the volunteers each year in a 3-year study, and that's the volunteers, Asian volunteers, Black volunteers, and Hispanic volunteers, and that's. Is there any questions about any of this information?
Makes more sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
David, this is in Durant up in Humboldt County.
Okay.
So if you can go to the very top of this page, when we talk about being in or out of parity in our county, is the state office and maybe Lynn, this is a question for you, is the state office looking at club only? Is it looking at club group? What is the metric that's being used for that determination?
So you'll see, Dorina, that there's 3 boxes here. The top one is the baseline from the census data. The second box is for club enrollment. And then the third box is for all of your group enrollment and individual units. So that's the total. So we're looking at 2 things: what the club looks on its own, and then also what the club looks like, what your county looks like with club and all your other enrollments.
Just to
Right.
chime in
So-
as well,
So
Dorina,
I just want to make sure my question is being understood. So what I'm asking is, when I think about Humboldt County being in or out of parity, is there one metric that you prefer I look at? Is there, as opposed to club only or group? I understand the three different metrics. I'm trying to understand if there's one of those. Well, which one do you all use for USDA?
Lynn, this is David, and this is probably something I probably should answer. The one I look at the all group and then individually enrolled, frankly, to determine a compliance status overall for the county as far as 4-H is concerned.
And
David, you're looking. Go ahead, Laura.
thank you. I just want to add, I know I went through my slides a bit quickly because it was very much the nitty gritty of how we get the data, but I think it's important to remember that your the youth total includes all group and individually enrolled. That's the whole program as a whole. But when you look at all club, as you know, looking at our delivery mode matrix, we can have group enrollments that are part of military clubs, after school clubs, in-school clubs. So those all clubs are going to contain those group enrollments as well. So group enrollment is factored into the youth total and to the youth all club. Does that help clarify where the numbers are coming from, Dorina?
Yeah, I have no problem where the numbers are coming from. I'm trying to well, let me ask this, David. Which of these three do you use for USDA reporting?
Well, I don't actually do any USDA reporting. The reporting that's done through the National 4-H system, that's what goes to, I assume, to the USDA, and that's what they see. And I get our numbers that you see here from Whitney, and she gets them from the national reporting system also.
So when I am looking at, this is Lynn. So when I am looking at the status of California and all of our programs, I am looking at this very top box. For me, it's all 4-H, and I am less concerned with how we, for lack of better words, meet our numbers, because the top box paints the total picture, right? It includes all of your efforts, regardless of if it's a club, if it's a community club, spin club, military club, if it's snack ed. These are all of your efforts are in this very first line.
Lynn, I think you're talking about the bottom. The bottom, the total youth all, group and individually enrolled. That would be the bottom. That's what we're looking at here, not the top one.
Okay, excuse me. The top one is community club only. I know it's kind of there's too much space in between that and the column, but this first one right here is community club only. The one in the middle is all club. And then the last one is all group and individually enrolled.
I apologize. I was looking at it in reverse.
Okay.
And I think for me anyway, what's important is that we recognize that it takes a variety of delivery methods to engage a variety of young people and adults. So I don't want to put weight or emphasis on one being more important or the other. They're all young people participating in the 4-H Youth Development Program, and we all want to recognize their participation. There are, however, counties that have more opportunities, if you will, for group enrollment than others. So that is to say that in some counties, the community club program might be stronger. There might be more numbers there. So we wanted to provide an opportunity to kind of break that out for you guys so that you can see what it looks like in whole of everyone that you're reaching, as well as what you're reaching through your community club program. Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
Esther, you had a question in the chat. I'm assuming that this answers your question as well? Great, thanks, Esther. Other questions for David? Or other questions about?
I would like to say, I would just like to say overall that I did see an improvement in the Hispanic enrollments overall. That was very encouraging, and you should all be, congratulated on your efforts in that regard.
I just want to thank the state office for providing these statistics for us. It's very, very helpful for us to, to see it all broken out by county, by delivery mode. So and as you can see, the 3 years over time, I'm not sure I completely understand that. I'll take a closer look at it, but just having this information, having you generate the report is really, really helpful. So I want to thank those that put time into creating it.
Well, thanks, Marianne. And it really is an effort between Whitney and Larissa and David. And, as David mentioned, as your enrollment numbers change, your percentages will change. But I think what this does for all of us is it gives us a nice snapshot over what's been happening over a couple of years. And you could also use it as a planning tool in regards to, well, what made this year different? What kind of extra efforts did we do? Did we have new clubs developed? Did we have new grant opportunities? What made changes, or what took place that caused changes, so that you can think about that in the future in regards to replicating things that worked and perhaps doing adjustments for things that didn't work. Other thoughts or questions for David? Okay, well, thank you so much, David.
Okay, I will mute myself.
And then, so next we have Gemma, who is going to walk us through the 4-H photo release policy reminder.
Actually, Whitney's doing that, and then I'm going to chime in after she's, yeah.
Hi, everyone. Let me bring up my share screen here. One moment. Yeah. Of course, my computer's. Okay. Okay, I just need my cubicle mate to give me a thumbs up. Yep, we're all good. Great. Okay, guys, so good morning. And what I wanted to do was take some time, just a few minutes. I know our previous topics were valuable conversations, so I just want to quickly get through this. There have been several inquiries from staff, and as we're in the midst of the beginning of the enrollment period for this program year, I just want to take a few minutes to clarify this one aspect of policy with staff. And it's really just to help you better assess and also have the tools and language to respond to local inquiries from families enrolling. So with that, of course that's not, okay. There we go. So what I wanted to do was just clarify, as many of you know, but some of you are new staff that have joined us, and this will be valuable. With the 4-H photo and information release, it is one of the consents as part of the individual enrollment process for youth and adults. And the key question that is often brought to me as the policy analyst is, hey, is this optional? And for the most part, answer is no. And the goal today is to kind of discuss the importance of why there's no opt-out for the photo release, apart, as you can see from, as I'm mentioning, an exception, and I'm going to discuss that more on the next slide. So really, families who are self-enrolling, they must agree to the photo release, and that's just a snapshot of the online enrollment system that you can see is very clearly structured and geared towards that, and aligns to our policy. So what I want to also add in is that staff cannot add in notes to a 4-H online profile that would just contradict a family who has self-consented through the online enrollment system when they self-enrolled. That does not agree. So what I wanted to do was really just take a minute to talk about that. What is the importance of this? And it really comes down to that the feasibility and the capacity, right? Families at any point who have enrolled and consented and understand, what's going on, if there is a certain photo of their child that, they're super uncomfortable with, or, things like that, at the local level, we can work with our families around that in terms of removing it if it's, posted on something that's within the 4-H managed domain, of course. But, we need to make sure that we are appropriately explaining the reason for this, really, and it's about monitoring and the capacity to, make sure that we're not promising, no photos ever going to be taken or posted in this way. We have this in place for purposes of being able to show our program to the world, and this is a means by which we do that. So the scenarios that I wanted to kind of highlight are that, and if you've talked with me, this is going to sound familiar to you, but it does help drive home the point that in scenario 1, imagine the camp staff, right? You might take a yearly picture that's, maybe a couple hundred campers. And then we want to put that on our county website. We want to say, hey, camp's great. This is fun. And it's, it's about sharing that in a medium like that. Well, since we don't know all 200 youth, we're not able to verify which youth did and which did not necessarily sign this photo release in that scenario where we had some opt-out, right? Identifying each and every youth to ensure we had that photo release, and then photoshopping the youth out whose parents didn't sign it, that's just not within our program's capacity. We have thousands upon thousands of youth that we are serving. And also that would still leave room for error. So the second scenario I wanted to highlight was, imagine the several hundred youth, right, that we have attending SLC. We've got pictures being posted on our 4-H Facebook page, and we've got that monitored by 4-H state office staff, website, and the subsequent events that we have, the afterglow, as some people still call it, from the event. We would not be able to use any of those if we had such an opt-out option, because we would never know the names of those youth, right, to be able to use any of such photos. So we cannot ensure that absolutely no photos are taken in that context of 4-H, or that a photo taken by some other youth is not used maybe on their own social media. It's about making, a promise that can't ever be, guaranteed. We don't want to put ourselves or the university in such a position. So it's really important that all participants have an awareness of why the program has such a consent in place. And then beyond that, as I mentioned, this exception group, okay? So there are very few exceptions when instances when an exception could be granted. So a family who is in a legally protected program they will have been made very aware of the limitations to which they can consent to such a thing as a photo release if they are in a certain program. Witness protection, foster care, youth, things like that are what I'm referring to. The exceptions are not families who just don't agree with the photo release itself and nothing beyond that. That is not an exception. So I want to be very clear with that. And when those families are very aware and they're in that program, right, they're going to have that awareness. They're going to disclose it to the club leaders or the county staff and say, hey, like I see these terms, but I can't consent. So where do we go with this? What do we do? So it's important at that point that your club leadership, enrollment coordinator folks and the county staff, right, that they're engaging and the county staff are aware and can reach out to submit that request through our 4-H online, because we have an alternative established enrollment procedure to allow for such exceptions in this smaller, group and as rare, as they happen to occur. But I wanted to make sure that people understood the scope of this and how it's defined. And we worked through this with our UC legal folks. So it's kind of been vetted in that process. So beyond that, I wanted to also say that there's a key part of successfully navigating the process that has to do with effectively dialoguing with families on these discussions. So that's where the mention of Gemma a few minutes ago came up. Gemma's going to share with us some guidance relative to that component of the process. So I'll let you take it away.
All right. Hey, everyone. So like Whitney said, there are certain conditions under which the photo release can be given an exception, but you also need to be careful about how you ask for that information. And I think that one of the best documents we have for engaging conversations with parents about sensitive subjects is the camp video and PowerPoint that Mary Ann and Whitney, and forgive me if I left someone out of that. Who else participated in that? Was it the Okay, so it's the two of you for sure. Okay, so that helps guide you through having a conversation without asking inappropriate questions. So it's going to be a sensitive thing. So what I'm basically going to say is that if you find yourself in that situation, be sure to reach out to me and Whitney so that we can help provide you the tools to have that conversation. Because what you don't want to quiz them and say, is your child in the witness protection program? You would never say that. So, but you do want to say, if you can go back a slide, Whitney.
Yeah.
Thanks. You do want to say that, quote, the only instance for exception to this this agreement is if your child is in a legally protected program. And then you can give these examples, for example, like a witness protection program or foster youth, and that, or other programs that prevent you from consenting. Does something like that apply to your child? And then you can start that conversation. But I would say just be cautious, and I will put the link to that webinar in the chat box after we're done here for the camp. It was specific to camp, but there's so much good information in there. Mary Ann Whitney did such a great job about how to have conversations with parents and volunteers about sensitive subjects. You can extrapolate the information and the guidance that's given there for not only this conversation, but children with disabilities or any other situation where you're talking about sensitive issues.
It's an interactive dialogue, that tennis match that we like to describe.
Yeah.
So Gemma, is there any more to share?
My tips, yeah.
And so thank you so much for that, Gemma. I really think that adds to this whole process. And then just to recap for everyone, the 4-H Online Help Request link, we'll share this PowerPoint with everyone, which has the links embedded and some policy references around that tie into it. So I just wanted to take a minute to, discuss this with everyone today, the importance of it, because in the policy realm, this question does find its way to me annually. So I thought that we would just cover this broadly. And then the only other thing that I wanted to quickly mention, we don't have, in the interest of time today, there are other resources and 4-H updates from my desk that I will add to the collaborative tools and the recording announcement around financial reporting and payments, first installment payments, all that good stuff for you guys. That'll be in written form for you as a follow-up to this call. But Lynn, I did want to mention that there's one more item on the agenda with the 4-H online help sheet that Larissa was going to mention. Do we have a few moments for that?
Absolutely.
Great. Okay.
Is there room to ask a question about the photo part?
Yes. Do you want to put it in the chat pod, or do you want to share?
I'll type it in.
Okay. Great. Thanks, Whitney. Just real quick, wanted to call your attention to a new help sheet. So sometimes I've noticed that I've been getting a lot of requests about a family having difficulty when logging into 4-H Online. As we know, this is heavy enrollment part of the year. So a lot of families are going there and trying to do the great thing of self-enrolling. So I've created a new help sheet. So as all of our resources, it's on the staff resource page, and it goes through the common issues that may cause a family to experience difficulty when logging into 4-H Online, and it provides solutions for the 4-H staff to use when working with the family. So just to be clear, this help sheet is intended for staff, but it's for staff to work with families, and it goes through situations such as forgotten password, incorrect email saved into a family profile, and it does touch on bounced and dropped emails and has some FAQs in it as well to help you work through this. And as Whitney mentioned, we do have the 4-H Online help request. So again, this allows us to track our potential system problems, identify needs where we can create help resources, and also make sure that your requests that you send are promptly addressed. So just a reminder that it's to be completed by staff only. And just also, please do not email myself or Whitney directly. Please use this help request survey. Again, it helps us with all of the tracking. So that's all I had for that. I think next on the agenda is the 4-H State Management Board.
Hey everyone, Jem again. So I have the pleasure of introducing John Trammell to all of you. John serves on the California 4-H Management Board as the Director of Youth Summits. He previously served as the Area Director for the Southern area, but we've restructured, or the Management Board is restructured, and John serves in a different role now. But he's been with 4-H as a youth, as a volunteer. I don't know how many years, John. How many years have you been with the organization?
This 1 month from today actually will be 25 years.
Wow, great. So he's been with us a long time, and he's joining us today as the representative from the Management Board to talk about youth summits. So there you go, John.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for allowing me to come in and present. I am going to share my screen. And hopefully you guys can see the presentation. Can you guys see it all right?
Yes, you're good.
Okay, perfect. So we don't have much time, so I'm just going to go straight into it for the youth summits. What we're going to talk about today is just a little bit of background and context, some of the educational components for the summit, the 2020 specifics and logistics that we'll need your guys' assistance on, and what we need from staff and all that. If you'd like, we could put your questions in the chat pod, or you could write them down and ask them at the end of the presentation just to save on the time on that. So, oops.
Yeah, and John, I'll monitor the chat pod for you if you want.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
That'd be fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah.
So What are the youth summits? The youth summits are 3-day leadership conferences for intermediate 4-H members that are planned by our senior 4-H members through a planning team. They were originally the area conferences back during the state and section council system that the management board inherited. And all of them, except for one of them, are held in January of each year. The Northern Youth Summit is actually taking place in less than 2 weeks. That is held in November because January gets a little bit tougher for youth to travel around the northern section of the state. So we moved it to November to meet those needs. One thing you'll notice is that the area is not mentioned in any of the names of the locations, and that's done purely out of kind of breaking down that geographical restrictions that the youth must attend the youth summit that's in their geographic region. So a youth from Merced can go to our Northern Youth Summit or down to the Southern Youth Summits. They can attend any of them. It doesn't matter if it's held in their what's historically been known as their area in the past, which is really, really nice. The conference setting is for younger youth. This could be one of the first times a lot of these youth adventure outside of their county into more of a statewide event in a conference setting. Some of them have probably been to a summer camp program, but this is kind of going to serve as a introduction for these youth to get into state level programming. Hopefully they'll go to state leadership conference when they're seniors, or even expand and go to national 4-H conference or other 4-H events throughout the state. So this can serve as a stepping stone for them to get comfortable with that type of environment. It's also a smaller scale, hands-on leadership opportunity for the older youth to start getting involved beyond their leadership roles they may be used to at a county level, like their county ambassador program, into state level leadership opportunities. Hopefully these youth will go on from helping plan our youth summits to applying to the state ambassador program, join in on some of our state advisory committees or other leadership opportunities that the state 4-H program provides. What's nice about it is most of these facilities are, most of the summits are at camps, so they kind of get like a summer camp feel, but there's still a conference instead of a thing. Also, it bridges the gap between the county and state programs. This is a good way to bridge the gap in a way that youth can learn about opportunities that the state program offers, which is really nice. So the California 4-H Management Board oversees the youth summits. I myself am the youth summits director, so I work with the management board itself and also all of our planning teams and our adult chairs to make sure that we're successful at running the youth summits. Bernadette in the state 4-H office, she is also involved with helping us out, and Gemma Miner, she works on handling all the registration and the enrollments and working on invoices so that we can get all the finances, the registration fees paid. Each youth summit does have a planning team of youth. No more than 10 is usually what we aim for, and they're all senior 4-H members. Each youth planning team is overseen by an adult chair. Some of them have been with the youth summits for quite some time and have experience planning these events. The planning teams all meet together in the springtime for their own planning weekend, and they help decide multiple different things, including the educational themes and other materials that should be similar across the board, across all 4 youth summits. And we've developed a handbook of best practices that each summit works on so that it's an equal opportunity for each youth, no matter what youth summit they attend. And that goes into our educational content section, which we have changed. A lot of the youth summits have served historically different age groups. For example, Southern area, the old Teen Involvement Conference was with 13 and above, and Northern was 11 to 19. So we're kind of changing the target ages to the intermediate 4-H members, and so the educational components of the youth summits are going to be geared for those age groups. We're still in a transitional phase, so we do have some summits that will still have older youth in attendance, but we are slowly getting away from that. It just takes time to go through that transition phase from what the old area conferences were to that. Our goals are to provide them with new skills and opportunities, deal with building relationships, personal and character development, giving them a sense of belonging, connection, and confidence so that they can become really good, effective leaders down the road. Pretty much it's just learning new skills and get exposure to opportunities to grow as a person and as a leader, and hopefully they'll take those skills to other opportunities down the road. The older youth, they serve on as hands-on leadership. Maybe their first one outside of the state, as I mentioned before. They do focus on facilitation. At the moment, we're going to be kind of defining different roles down the road of what a facilitator may look like. Not all youth summits have facilitators. For example, Southern, we just have a planning team that's a little bit larger, so the whole planning team works in that role as facilitator as well. Compared to other youth summits that have a smaller planning team, and then they have facilitators that come in. So we're still defining some of those roles, and we hope the next year to kind of have a uniform staff structure that's equal across all 4 youth summits. But we're getting there, we promise. It just takes us a little time. Another part of the educational platform is that we're incorporating a platform that's developed by the state ambassador program. So the state ambassadors, they develop kind of a educational platform that they utilize at the State Leadership Conference. And so we have worked with the with Jenna Colburn, the ambassadors team, to adopt their educational platform so that it expands to more youth throughout California. Even though they pick the educational platform, our youth planning team still gets the chance to choose a specific theme that kind of can narrow down a broad educational form to that. So for this year, they picked the theme Ripples of Today, Waves of Tomorrow, which falls under the educational platform the last year's ambassador team developed that was focused around advocacy. So it's a new venue to adopt a platform from a state leadership team. So a lot of questions that we have, the youth summits are coming up. So who in the world do I contact if I have questions? If you have any registration and payment questions, definitely reach out to Bernadette. If you have very specific questions about individual summits, it's recommended that you contact the chair. And then for higher up level stuff, other concerns, and if you're not getting, you can't get a hold of the chairs or anything, feel free to contact me. We can definitely send out my information, my contact information. My email is listed on the state website underneath the Youth Summits page, and so is the chairs. So, but if you have anything, you don't know who to contact, just contact me and I'll get you in contact with the right individuals. So for this year, there's a few things that we're working on. So each Youth Summit will have what's called a leadership lab. It is an extended period of time, kind of more like a track format where it's a couple-hour full conference activity where the youth will get a hands-on on a very specific activity. Curtis, one of our executive team members on the management board, he has done the leadership lab at a few youth summits last year. That was really hands-on and really trying to build up some skills that we can't really cover in just a 55-minute workshop. This year, we are going to do that for all of them and down the road. So We do have a guest speaker who's going to be a keynote at 2 of the youth summits. His name is Chad from Southern and Northern. We're trying to share speakers between youth summits as well to provide that equal opportunity. I already talked about the education platform here. And there's the URL for the website if you guys didn't have it, but you can easily just go to the homepage of the state website, go under events, and it's an alphabetical order, so Youth Summits is at the very end. And we're going to be updating some more content. So for example, we don't have workshop descriptions up there yet, but that is a project of mine that I'm going to be working on within the next week with our adult chairs. Payment process. So if the youth want to, they can pay upfront with credit card through Survey Builder, which is what our registration stuff is, or they can say that they're going to pay through the county. If they do say that, then what happens is each county will be given an invoice, and the county will have to pay that registration fee. So the counties will have to work with these youth. So if the youth are going to write a check, or let's say they're going to pay for half the registration fee while your county management board or council approves like a scholarship, financial aid to help out with that, then the county will organize all that so that we get one check from the county. And we're going to have the payment is going to be due a week before the summit. So with the Northern Youth Summit coming up here in the next couple of weeks, the payments will probably be due next week, unless we have some late registration. We're accepting registration for the Youth Summit until Sunday, because our numbers are still a little low. So that may change for Northern Youth Summit, but chaperones are great. We have the same process we use for other states stuff. They have to follow fill out the overnight chaperone forms, and then once they're approved, our chairs will send them a link to a registration form for chaperones so that they will be able to fill out the same information that the youth would. And we will also be invoicing all the counties to cover their registration fees for the youth summits. From my understanding, that type of stuff is the same type of platforms that State Leadership Conference and other statewide events manage their registration fees. So what's next? You guys are the ones that are more at the local level throughout the state. I don't know everyone in the state, neither does our planning teams. So if you really need your help to help us market the youth summits, that would be fantastic. We want to expand our audiences, and it's a great opportunity for a lot of youth that the state level programming offered at a more regional level, which is really nice. So we all can work together on really pushing registration forms. I have a lot of information, so if you need any info, please contact me outside of this call. I even have logos and stuff that I can send your way, that if you really wanted to spruce up like a flyer or an email campaign to all your county youth members and adult volunteers, that would be fantastic. Let me see, is this all right, so that's some basic information. As a reminder, if you have any questions about the registration process itself or payments, definitely contact Bernadette. You can always CC me in those emails as well. And then other stuff about specific stuff is the individual chair. And of course, you can contact me about anything that you may need, and I can help you out. Is there any questions about the youth summits or anything? We just wanted to make sure that you guys have the information you need in order to successfully help us get our youth to these summits.
John, there's one question from Susan about, will there be financial aid available?
Will there be financial aid? So in the past, we have provided aid through fee waivers. The board has decided we are not providing fee waivers this year. So what we are hoping is that the youth will go to their local county councils or to their clubs and all that to try to see if there is more local financial support available for youth this year. The management board would like to provide options in the future for financial aid to get youth to come to conferences or lower the cost of the conferences but we haven't been able to work on that yet. So it's a future goal of ours. So unfortunately, this year, not yet, but we will work on that hopefully in the future. I do see the chat box here, so let's see here. Yeah, if the youth summits can be supported by the Tractor Supply funds, I'm not aware of how any of that is managed. So if you guys want to work on all of that, we can use any support. Our goal is to hopefully get the youth summit costs to go down, which would be really nice. It's going to take us a while to get there, but regular updates on who from your counties are registered. That is a very good question. From our end, we have an updated list that we go through enrollment checks and everything. And, but we can definitely, you can contact me and I can provide you a list of who has registered, or you can contact the individual chair because they may have updated lists as well. So contact both the chair and myself and we will make sure that we can provide you lists. And then there seems like there's a question here about group register the use going to summit. We don't have a group registration option available. It is on a individual basis. So each individual will need to go to the registration form and fill that out. We have not considered a group registration for youth summits. So maybe that is something for improvements down the road. We'll definitely explore that option. If you guys feel that that would make life easier for you, any feedback, by the way, in our processes are greatly appreciated. So if you guys think of ways that aren't working or things that can work, that would be helpful. Anyway, I know time is kind of up and I don't want to take up the rest of your schedules. I don't see any other questions at this point, but you can contact me anytime off the call and I'd be happy to either have a phone conversation with you or email or anything that's needed to get the information you guys need.
Thank you, John. Appreciate your time today.
You're very welcome. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
So I know we're over time. However, we have Emily Delic and Mary Cirisillo on the line to go over some 4-H Foundation resources for you all. So I would like to encourage you guys, if possible, to stay online and listen to the presentation. We are recording today, so we can send it out as well. But if you have a few moments and you can stick around, I would encourage that. So Emily and Mary?
Thanks, Lynn. This is Emily. I'm hoping you can hear me. As I go to share my screen, which I don't know if for the rest of you, but this is generally when I have a panic attack as I'm trying to figure out technology. So bear with me one moment here.
Did it.
Let's see. There we go. I think it's working now. Mary, I think I see you nodding, so good. I just wanted to run through some quick highlights about our Giving Tuesday campaign and to touch bases with all of you to see if you've got questions about that and how we can help you be successful. As a reminder, our year-end strategy is a 3-pronged approach. So we are going to be participating in Giving Tuesday. Of course, our statewide office will be participating and will be running a campaign, but of course we encourage you to do that locally as well. We're going to be doing email appeals, and that will be primarily in the month of December, though you will see some promoting Giving Tuesday as well. And then our statewide direct mail appeal letters will be going out in the next couple of weeks as well. I wanted to respond to some of the conversation that we had earlier today before the brown bag started. That to hear about the local letters that are going out is really exciting. I just want to encourage you to use Mary and myself to share that information. If you are doing local letters, we'd love to know about it so that we can coordinate efforts with you in terms of timing and messaging. We would love to partner with you on that. So please keep us in the loop. With that, I'm going to talk about more specifically Giving Tuesday because that is right hot on our heels. It's December 3rd. And you can see here, this is some of the Giving Tuesday branded assets that are made available to us. Giving Tuesday, as you probably know, is a global campaign. We participate in it like so many millions of other nonprofit organizations do, but it is not exclusive to us. It is a global effort, and we work to brand it so that people know that they can find and support 4-H and our other UC A&R programs on this day. So again, I just want to reiterate, we will be doing a statewide campaign. So at the very minimum, we hope that you're following us on those social media channels, primarily Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And you can be sharing the posts that we share from the statewide office. But then we would encourage you to do a local effort as well so that you can really customize that campaign, use images of your youth and your programs to really personalize it for your constituents. And I'm going to share some exciting news with our next slide, which is that we have matching funds available again this year. So please take advantage of this free to you money. As you know, the way matching funds work is that it is a first come, first matched process. So the gifts that come in at midnight or shortly thereafter will be matched dollar for dollar. And we get to say a big thank you to the California 4-H Foundation for raising this money for us. So it is coming from their coffers, from their fundraising efforts, that we have this money available. So thank you, Mary, and to the board for making these funds available. It is a huge motivator, as you probably know, in terms of getting...
We can't see your slide.
You can't see the slide?
It's not advancing.
Huh. How about now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So yes, it's got exciting news, and I want to make sure that I'll get to take advantage of that. So to help you with your campaign, there are tools you can use. And so I'm hoping that you can see the next slide. Do you see one that says tools you can use? Yes, okay. So we have a couple of things available to you. The Giving Tuesday campaign in a box that I have shared on the last call, and you'll be familiar with because it's materials that we made available last year and have hopefully improved upon even in the Big Dig Day campaign from this spring. You'll find that there will be a customized 4-H campaign in a box just for you. So it will have messaging that is specific to 4-H. It will have graphic images that are specific to 4-H so that it's designed to be as simple as possible for you to use and personalize at the local level. There will also be email templates available to you so that you can encourage people via email to participate not only in Giving Tuesday, but to make year-end gifts throughout the month of December. And then I wanted to throw in a little plug that Mary's going to talk about this in a minute as well. There is a 4-H Grows Business Partnership Kit that will be available to you as well, which will help in developing relationships with potential sponsors. And I'll let Mary talk a little bit more about that. But all of these tools are going to be available to you on the 4-H website under the Resources tab in the Brand Toolkit, and they will be available to you by this Friday. So with that, I want to show you another quick glimpse. This is an example of one of the graphic assets that will be available to you and how you can personalize these things. All of these logos and icons will be available, and you can float them over your own photos to personalize it. In terms of a timeline and what to do next or to do now, again, this is a reminder to check with your business office to make sure that you have gift accounts set up. check that your website has the donate button prominently displayed and that it's working going to the give page. This is the time to gather that content, those stories, photos, and graphics that demonstrate your impact. Make sure your contact lists are updated with names and emails, and ensure that you've got active social media accounts. If you have been working with potential businesses to be sponsors for Giving Tuesday, this is a great opportunity to recognize them and to give them a lot of kudos for their support. And then I just wanted to throw out an idea here that if this seems daunting or like a lot of extra effort, one, it's well worth it to you, but two, this could be a great opportunity to help or get the youth engaged in helping with your social media. I've heard some good stories of that working well, and I just wanted to throw that out there as an idea. And with that, you can see here is my contact information. I encourage you to give me a call, send me an email, let me know how I can be of help to you. And again, our resources will be available in the toolkit coming this Friday.
Sorry, this is Suzanne. So we're going to put the resources up there by Friday. Some may be available, a few things may be available sooner. But don't they have to have the donate button go to your giving site and not the ANR?
The links that will be in the toolkit so all of those social media links will be directed to our giving site. It's the same site that we used for the Big Dig Day, so you'll recognize that. But all of those links will be embedded in that toolkit.
So if you have a button on your site right now that goes to the ANR, your county L account, that's not the account that we're using to find the matching gifts and to count towards Giving Tuesday. It's going to be that separate site.
That's correct. Thanks, everybody. Please let me know if there are questions. I'm happy to answer. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
So there's a question, are the donators able to donate to VMOs or to the UCCE office? Mary, we can't hear you if you're talking.
Thank you, Suzanne. Yes, a donor can absolutely donate their gift to a county, a club, or anything that has a L account, gift account, or a funding opportunity. We don't limit where donors can donate, so they just have to make a note of it if it isn't in the drop-down menu where they'd like their gift to go. But all gifts. This actually Giving Tuesday raises a lot of money for the counties. So just when you're sending out your emails or your social media, just remind your donors and your prospective donors to write in your county when supporting 4-H on Giving Tuesday.
Thank you, Mary.
Okay, so I am here. Thank you, Emily. I'm here just to share some quick information about other resources. Again, a reminder, these are resources to you. These are not action items of things you need to add to your to-do list. It's really about if you're ready to launch a small business campaign, if you have volunteers that can help you. This is really meant as a volunteer-led initiative. And it's about developing relationships with those local businesses in the county. So it is a sponsorship meant to be a renewable sponsorship program. And it dovetails perfectly with Giving Tuesday, because if you're putting out messaging about please support our program on Giving Tuesday, you can also use that messaging as you're approaching these small businesses. As part of Giving Tuesday, become a 4-H Grows Here business partnership. So the business partnership program is new, and it's meant, what we did is we developed a toolkit to help you not have to think about imagery or donation letters or anything like that. So all the templates will be on the resources tab on the 4-H website. And it, again, is meant to raise money for your county 4-H programs through business partnerships and sponsorships. So what we did is developed a plan that is meant to take the guesswork out and gives you tools that easily request donations, and, you know, help you with your point of sale fundraising efforts from businesses in your community. The toolkit gives you little tips and tricks about how to make an ask. We did set donation levels and gave a step-by-step guide in the toolkit and provided things like the donation request letter, some social media posts, a newsletter template that you can use if you can put out a press release to your local newspapers, a thank you letter, and a leave behind flyer. We also made little window clings that look like this image. So if you do get a donor, a sponsor, you can give them one of these. I have them here, and when you're ready to, if you're ready to go out and start asking businesses for gifts, I'll send you a stack of these, and then you can give this to them to display in their window and show that they are a proud 4-H Grows sponsor to your program. So we mentioned Giving Tuesday as an opportunity to leverage this program, which is on December 3rd. It's already November 5th. So even with the toolkit not 100% ready to go, I hope that maybe you guys are messaging that you will be participating in Giving Tuesday this year. And that just lets your donors and your businesses know that a lot of people like to give on that day and be a part of that movement, that they can give to 4-H on that day. So that includes businesses. And with the $25,000 match, that's an extra incentive to go ahead and start messaging that so everyone knows their gift will be matched 1-to-1 up to $25,000. So how do you get started? Just like I said, making an announcement, whether that's a press release, maybe you include a story, a 4-H story that happened in your county, in your local area in that press release, and just basically letting people know, you know, 4-H is here, here's the wonderful things we're doing, and we're also looking for your support. It's really a message, and again, the template is in the toolkit, but really just letting people be aware that you're looking for donations, because sometimes you could be there and do all these wonderful things, but if people don't know that you are actually fundraising and you have a need, they're not going to just randomly write a check to you. So it's good to let people be aware that you are looking for partnerships, and in this case, all local business partnerships. So we created these levels and incentives, which are extremely broad because it's meant to serve every county in California. So we started at $100, and then obviously it goes up beyond $10,000. These are in the toolkit in templates, but they're all editable. So if there's something here that you're not comfortable with, you can change it. Again, the incentives are in the toolkit, but again, extremely broad. I don't know what you guys have going in your counties as far as how you can recognize local sponsors. For example, I don't know if you put out an e-news, a hard copy letter monthly or quarterly, but these are ways to recognize if you have a small business, a donor in your county. Sponsorships love recognition. So just a thank you in your newsletter or your social media channels, and you can play with these levels. What we did, for example, under Gold Star County Recognition, that's a pretty broad statement. So you can change that to recognition in the Tulare County Monthly E-News or monthly 4-H E-News. Another incentive that may be appealing to some of those businesses is we will recognize them at the statewide level. So I'm working with Suzanne right now to get this toolkit up on the webpage, and then also brainstorm ideas of how we're going to recognize local businesses. So we do ask that when you are going out and asking for donations for those businesses, that you do work with the foundation, and their checks are processed through the California 4-H Foundation, so we can see those donations and recognize them on our webpage, our monthly e-news, and then I'm working on an annual report with Suzanne, and we will thank our business sponsors in that as well. So as I mentioned, the window clings are available now. You just need to contact me and let me know that you're interested in receiving a stack of them. And I'm happy to talk one-on-one. I've talked with about a handful of counties already. I'm happy to spend an hour with you on the phone and walk you through the toolkit and just brainstorm ideas on how to get started. The other thing I wanted to mention was the Forever, I mentioned it in the in Ryan's organized brown bag in the networking call, but the Forever 4-H endowment, simply because this has gotten out there, there's a lot of buzz about it, but we've never made an official announcement about it on the brown bag. So basically, it's an endowment initiative that's meant to create sustainable funding at the statewide level and at the county level. And it was about a year ago that the vision was created, and the goal is lofty. It's to raise $25 million in endowment. And when a county starts up an endowment, we basically are saying it's a $1 million goal per county program or per the statewide program. So when I'm messaging it to donors, depending on who I'm talking to, I'll let them know about the $25 million umbrella goal, but that the target is $1 million endowment per county program. We piloted this program with the California 4-H Foundation Board last fall. We needed to start somewhere. And so there were matching incentives, and a couple of counties identified that matched criteria where there would be, they had the capacity, they were working with the foundation, they had the bandwidth to pull off a campaign to support Forever 4-H. Things like that were in the criteria. So there are Forever 4-H endowments started in Santa Barbara and at the statewide level. Merced, as Darlene mentioned earlier, is working on raising enough funds to get their match incentive and get their endowment started. And then we also had Modoc County start a grassroots effort for their Forever 4-H endowment. And they basically did a campaign which was $100 from 100 donors, which is the amount needed, $10,000 to open up an endowment in your county. So there are some Forever 4-H endowments out there that exist and that are being messaged. One thing I would caution is, as I mentioned earlier in the networking call, when you're asking for money to an endowment, then you're not asking money for your current use programming. So in our times right now where we need a lot of current use money, it can be a little bit tricky, but it's important to note that some donors get very excited about investing in an endowment. They love the sustainability and knowing that the 4-H program will live in perpetuity, will live forever when they support this endowment. So all options are good options, to have when you're talking with donors. And we like to do what's called a hybrid ask, and you'll see it in this year's statewide 4-H appeal. So basically some donors will say, yeah, I want to make a current use gift, but split my gift 50-50 and give 50% of it to the Forever 4-H endowment. So we give them that option. I'm sure you're all familiar with how endowments work, but like I said, it's $10,000 to open a new endowment, and then it's managed under the UC Chief Investment Office, and it brings a very, very good return. There was an article commending the UC endowment pool with an 8.5% average return recently in a year. So that's a huge yield. So endowments grow very, very quickly, and as they grow, that spin off the money that is spins off the endowment, it's about 4%, maybe a little over every year. That money is current use. So this Forever 4-H endowment is meant to be used as current use money to fund your programs, operating expenses, staff, etc. I mentioned earlier the goal is $1 million, and that's because it can roll off $40,000 a year, which would be able to fund a part-time CES in perpetuity. Once the endowment is started, it's guaranteeing funding for your county forever. And sustainable funding means that you can add new programs, attract new members, be more flexible with your programming. So it is a long-term goal. But again, alumni, 4-H alumni, donors, they definitely love this kind of investment. So I think that how to get started is, again, if you have those volunteers that are messaging fundraising for you, we want to pepper in messaging about the Forever 4-H endowment, and I can help with that. The way we're getting started at the statewide office is like I said, the 50-50 in the appeal. We are also looking at putting a buck slip into the spring appeal, the hard copy direct mail appeal, and targeting specific donors that we think would like to give to an endowment. So a lot of time it's the alumni, it's your people who are in the age range where they're thinking about a planned gift, people who have been giving consecutively. Like when we look at donors and we go, oh my gosh, they've been giving to 4-H for 20 years in a row. Those are the kind of people that love giving to endowments. So we'll look at some criteria and put a buck slip into our direct mail appeal for the spring. So that's probably enough said about the Forever 4-H endowment for today. But again, I'm here for questions and to help you get started. So that's it for me. Thank you.
I will be needing to leave and run a whole bunch of errands and stuff like that. I'm just thinking this brown bag is half an hour.
Hi, Mary. There's a couple questions for you in the chat box. Do the recognitions of donations give the dollar amount donated or the level?
Typically, no. Usually when we recognize sponsors, you do, well, I shouldn't say no. Usually you do recognize them at the level, but that's definitely up to county staff discretion. There's no requirement on how to recognize your donors. You can simply say thank you to our 4-H Grows Here small business partners and list them, which is what I've been doing in the monthly Alumni and Friends e-news. I don't give a dollar amount when I thank our sponsors.
And then Georgia had a question if she could get the presentation.
Yes, definitely. I will share it. Thank you.
All right, just to let everyone know, Lynn had to go to another meeting. So she said she was going to delay the conversation on the National Rifle Association, California Rifle and Pistol Association grants. So she didn't give me any more information, just other than she's gonna delay the conversation for now. So if you have questions about it, I would encourage you to reach out to her directly. And we're going to go ahead and, close off. We're very much over the time. So thank you for those of us who have stayed with us. And if you have any questions for any one of us, feel free to email us. And just to let you know, Bernadette is on vacation. And so the recording and slides will be posted upon her return. So thanks so much, everybody.